I had sex since I was 3.5 years old. I had a really tough childhood growing up. I was under a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, bullying. I should hate people. I had questions about God and everything that I read about the Bible.
Join us as we welcome world-renowned cosmetic dermatologist, Dr. Shino Bay Aguilera. With over 17 years of experience, he's a pioneer in non-invasive treatments, top international speaker, and developer of groundbreaking techniques. Don't miss this episode with one of aesthetics' leading voices.
Explain that to me a little bit more, that everything has
Consciousness.
Yeah.
I even believe that even a rock has consciousness.
Really?
My oldest patient is 94. She looks 60. She does Sculptra on the board.
awesome.
But she needs to take Cuban. We don't want to get wrinkles. So as you get older, you need supplementation. As humans, we live in a very harsh environment with all
Right.
this pollution and all these
A lot of toxins.
toxins.
Yeah. You are the God in the universe for all yourself. How important is nutrition for skincare, for aesthetic?
It's very important because
Now, hydration. How important is hydration for
it's very
skin?
important. We are actually
I want to talk about alcohol. What effects do alcohol truly have to your skin?
well, it is.
Welcome to another episode of a Healthy Point of View podcast. I'm your host, Sam Tejada, and today we have a special guest. Those of you guys who know aesthetic medicine, you guys have seen this guy. He's world-renowned. He's a very well-known doctor based here out of South Florida, where I'm at. I actually, for this one, I want to do a nice drum roll. So, ready? We have Dr. Shino Bay. Dr. Shino Bay, how are you?
Doing good. Thank you for having me here.
I'm so excited about this episode. Obviously, before the podcast, we had the opportunity to talk about some of the topics that we could talk about today. And, all of our viewers, our listeners and viewers, they understand a lot of the stuff that we do on the functional medicine side, right? We have a lot of consumers that listen to the podcast alongside with, we distribute our IV vitamin therapy product to over 4,000 doctors throughout the United States that a lot of them tune into the podcast. So one of the things that I found very attractive about what you do is functional aesthetic medicine, which has so much to do. But before we start with any of that, I've been following you on Instagram for a long time. And there is something about you that you just are always vibrating at the right frequency. Your energy is just on point. And I have friends that are just like, man, where does he get this energy from? How does he have that positive mindset? And in your bio, you have aesthetic medicine, and then you also have spiritual advisor. So I want to talk a little bit about what do you do as a spiritual advisor? And I have a strong feeling that that's one of the reasons why you're always vibrating at the right frequency.
Well, I'm first self-appointed spiritual advisor, but it's just came natural to me because usually I think since I was little, people would have come to me for answers, especially mystic things. I come from Panama, so they believe in brujeria, like witchcraft, all kind of stuff, santeria, brujeria, and then religion as well. And I had a really tough childhood growing up. So since I can remember my life, since I was 3.5 years, I was, under a lot of abuse. Any abuse that you can imagine, sexual abuse, bullying, and I should hate people. I really should. But I never did. I always had this inner guidance within me that would tell me that forgiveness was the way to go, not to judge anyone, including those that hurt me. Because if I would go through that door, my life would be as chaotic as their life. And I always wanted a better life for myself. I grew up
Right.
extremely poor. We didn't have toilets. We had a hole in the ground.
Right.
And I always felt like I didn't belong there. Even though I was happy, I didn't know any better, but something inside me, it was this burning desire to be bigger or being better places, but it had nothing to do with monetary. It's almost like I had this assignment that I had to do, and that assignment was to become a doctor, and that kind of doctor that will help people feel better physically and emotionally.
Right.
And I always knew that I had to come to United States to be that kind of doctor. So my childhood, in terms of in school, I was a really good student. Um, Nobody ever helped me. My grandmother raised me, but she was illiterate, so she couldn't help me with homework. So I did everything on my own. Nobody
Wow.
ever forced me to do homework or made me do homework.
Do you feel like you were gifted, a gifted child when it came
Um,
to
no, I was disciplined.
discipline?
I was preparing myself since age 5 to come to United States, go to UCLA,
Wow.
become a doctor, and there was nothing that will um, make me think otherwise. And through my trials and tribulations, um, everything was going really well in my life. I mean, I had sex since I was 3.5 years old, with relatives, with neighbors, with friends of my relatives, with everybody. And that was the only time that I felt loved or caressed. Most
Right.
of the time I was getting beat up. So I really liked it. I really liked people kissing me and touching me. I didn't know any better. It was the nicest part of my life, of my day. And I could have asked with different people like 3, 5 times a day. They didn't even know they were doing that to me until I had to do my first communion. And I learned about religion and I learned about sin.
Mm-hmm.
And I sure knew I was going to hell now if all of that was
Wow.
true. And I remember that um, doing my confession, I lied to the priest. I also felt like, why should I tell him something so private? Um, but then again, when you're raised Catholic, guilt is, and punishment is always on the back of your mind. So I remember that I felt even guiltier that I lied to the priest, and the reason I lied was because my parents, and I'm very close to my parents now, but my father had to come to the United States to become a jockey. My mom, she remarried somebody.
Around what
Uh,
age did your parents
my
come here?
my mom, I wasn't even supposed to be born, to tell you the truth.
Oh
My
wow.
mom was like 16, going on 17. It was probably during Carnival because I was born in November. So if you uh, if you if you were born in November, it means you're a Carnival baby, you know.
Yeah. You're
Um,
connecting the dots, looking backwards, huh?
yeah. So it's a night of lost. My two teenagers, and they were very afraid because my father actually wanted to be a doctor himself,
Oh really?
and he got accepted to medical school. But then his whole life changed with me because then he had to get a job. Um, but before they came clean to their parents, they did everything to abort me. So they took things. They even went to a clandestine place and they scraped me.
Oh
Probably I'm
wow.
so skinny because they scraped half of my body. Just kidding. But
You're in good shape, by the way.
thank
So
you. So um, I wasn't supposed to be here. But then my mom got really sick with hemorrhage, and they had to tell their parents that she was pregnant. And my grandmother, got a broom, chased my dad, tell nobody's going to this, nobody's going to do something like this to our family.
right,
So you have to marry her. And that marriage lasted like 2 years only. I mean, they were kids,
right, right.
and they're just good people. Just life happened, and so my grandma raised me. So for me to tell my grandma what I've done with my life, what I was doing, was such a sin. I mean, talking about incest and sex where you're not supposed to,
Right.
and I thought she's the only, because at that time I felt that my parents didn't love me because they left me with her. So I didn't even like my name. My name Shino Bay comes from a horse. When my mom gave birth to me, my father was riding this horse named Shino Bay. Bay is the color of the horse. And the owners were Japanese. So he won the race, and then I was named after the horse.
And now that horse's name is all around the world. It really
So I
is.
had that energy in me, right?
Yeah.
A thoroughbred. So I remember that I didn't like that story when I was little. I felt like, that shows that they didn't love me. They named me after an animal. But now I can understand being a man older. There were kids having kids,
Right.
and my grandma also was never home at night because it's a whole different story. My grandfather from China, my grandmother from Costa Rica. They had 3 kids in Costa Rica, moved to Panama. He left her with 8 kids, and she was illegal and beautiful. And the only thing that she can do for a living was she was a prostitute. So that's how I got bullied, because one thing is being poor, and one thing is being poor and the grandson of the prostitute.
Right. You're getting it. You're getting hit from all the angles on there.
And also I spoke differently. Like you hear I'm neutral now, but I never spoke like a Panamanian, because my grandmother was Costa Rican, so I spoke like a Costa Rican, even though I was born in Panama. So I would get bullied because my accent in Spanish. And I got bullied because I was very androgynous to this day. And I'm not the most masculine looking man, and there's nothing I can do about it. That was something I hated about myself too, because people would just look at me and then have this assumption. Sexually, to tell the truth, I'm fluid. I fell in love with women. Then I was bisexual. I was repressing my other tendencies because I was abused, and I felt like, okay, maybe this is the reason why I am like this. My attraction for men too, and now happily married. But going back to my story, I didn't want to tell my grandma because I felt like she would not love me if she found out this secret life of mine. And to this day, my mom, my father know that there's some abuse in my life. My mom doesn't know they don't know from which side of the family.
Right.
And I will never say, a lot of times people say, the stuff that my friends know about that happened to me, that you should have a movie about your life. I could never even write a book about my life because I would wait until my parents are dead.
Until they pass away.
Because I don't want to put that guilt. I think they already feel guilty enough for what happened to me and being left behind. But I also know that they love me and they're very proud of me. And out of respect to that, I don't want to add negativity into their life because it's not going to help anybody. It's going to create strain between brothers and sisters. It's going to destroy the family. What am I going to gain with that? I don't get anything.
That's a powerful thing that you're doing. That is not an easy decision, but what you're saying, this all goes back to your spiritual life, and thinking about the energy that you're going to put out into the ether and how that can affect so many other people.
Yeah, no, and I think that is the beginning of my spirituality. Started me after, and at 8 years old, that's when I did my first communion, and then my whole world just changed completely, and I was in a very dark place at 8 years old.
Wow.
And at night, I attempted suicide. So I drank DDT. You know what that is? It's a pesticide.
No.
Well, I heard, there was it was poison. And I don't know if this story was true or no, but I heard that a little girl had drank DDT and she passed away. So, maybe that's where I got the idea, I'm pretty sure. And I drank DDT. Obviously, I didn't die, but I woke up in the hospital wearing diapers.
Oh, boy.
And hands and feet tied like Jesus Christ. And I was always been very private about my business. Like if I want to pee or do number 2, I don't want people to know that I'm in the bathroom.
Right.
I don't want people to think I do number 2.
Smells like roses.
I do. It smells like roses too. But I was very private, so it was humiliating that for 2 weeks I was like that. And then they would ask me why. And I didn't want to say the real truth. I just said I was depressed because I blame it on the easiest thing to do is my situation. Everybody will believe me. My
Right.
parents left me.
Right.
But I remember begging my grandmother to come and to get me out of there. And she came one night and she told me. And I was a sick child. We have asthma and boils on my face, on my body because hygiene, when you grow
Right.
up poor, hygiene is like this priority. And she came, and then because my asthma attacks, every time I would go to the hospital, I would have a different name. There was no computer. They just had a notebook and they would write the name. There's no way to check who my real identity was. So
Wow.
I promised myself that when I get to have some money, I want to donate some money to the
To
hospital,
the hospital out in
to the Hospital Santo Tomas in Panama
Wow.
City, because
Panama City.
um, they really took good care of me, and I think
Is that hospital still around?
yeah. I was
Wow.
born there, and
Have you ever gone back to visit as being a physician?
I haven't, yeah. And now I haven't, yeah. And now I'm going back to Panama. For a long time, I didn't want to go back because when I left, I wanted to reinvent myself. That was like being reborn again, and nobody will know who I was because, like I told you about my grandma, what she did for a living, and I just wanted to start fresh and being this new identity. And
So did you have to go through your own healing process?
I had to, because I think when I tried to commit suicide, that's when I became the spiritual seeking person.
Okay.
And I had questions about God. And everything that I read about the Bible, there were some things that didn't make sense. And because I feel God in me, and I felt like I had these spiritual guys constantly guiding me, telling me how to act to every scenario, like somebody spit on me or punch me, or like I knew exactly
How to
what to
respond?
respond
Wow.
instead of react. And I do had to console myself, because I couldn't tell anybody my dark secrets and or ask for help. I remember when I would get bullied, my uncles would say, "You come back here and you been beat up and you didn't beat them up yourself. We're gonna beat you up," and they will hit me if.
Oh wow.
So I sure not. I was not going to tell anybody that I just got beat up,
Yeah.
And it was like for my whole life, like the worst was elementary school. Like for the first 3 years of elementary school, at 5 o'clock, I would get 5 kids and they would just beat the crap out of me.
Wow.
I would just let it happen. I
And
just
a lot of people don't understand some of the things that people go through living in third world countries.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of the stories. I was born in Dominican Republic, and I hear a lot of
Beautiful
stories.
place, by the way. I
Thank
was
you.
in Punta Cana just
Oh,
last weekend.
nice. Yeah, I want to book a trip out there soon. I'd love to go back over there. So, but Dominican Republic, these third world countries, they don't have necessarily what we have here. Now, a lot of them have developed a lot more. But back in the day, these things would happen, and for you to get where you're at today, right? Number one, go through the healing process, which I want to hear more about that. But not just go through the healing process, which I want to know. I want to hear, what form of spirituality you tapped into. But you didn't just go through the healing process. You became a healer as a physician. So let's dig a little bit deeper and hear more about, what you tapped into when it comes to spirituality.
So seeking for truth and having this idea of God, that it was taught to me that God, it was a jealous God. And these are the words that come from me. These are words that came from pastors or from priests. That God, it was a God of wrath if you weren't righteous. So I grew up that, but He loves you. Like
Right.
if you do this and you do that, you're gonna burn in hell forever. But God loves you. And I'm like, that's impossible. You cannot be like that. If I am a parent or I'm a father like God, and He sees us as His children, I will never do that. I will never. And if I'm God, I will help out and do everything in my power. You have a child that's sick or misbehaving, you do everything in your power to make sure that you teach him the right way.
Right.
And violence is not the right way. And if you're God, why would you be jealous? It's your God.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
nobody
Yeah.
else to be jealous.
That
So,
doesn't make
and
sense,
this
right?
is me as a child,
Right.
having all these questions. And I remember asking older people and even religious people and even priests, and I was never satisfied.
You never got the answer.
Never satisfied.
Wow.
And I'd be like, the typical example, I go, and I remember asking this to one of the priests. I go, why would God would tell Abraham to kill Isaac just to show that his faith? Why would he have to do that? Number one, if he's God, he already knows what's in your heart.
Right.
So it's, to me, this is not like thinking like God. It's like thinking like another man thinking. Only man gets jealous. So, and I think I forgot what he said, but it was just the way God sometimes operates. And to go, the other thing is like I find it very sadistic, because if I have a child and I love my child, and my proof of love to God is to kill him, and God may be enjoying this, like, so I don't believe it. I think Noah's Ark and all this stuff, I can see that maybe in history we have, like in Fort Lauderdale when we had that flood.
Right.
Well,
Right.
that could be written 2,000 years from now.
And they didn't know what it was.
Exactly.
Right.
But
I've mentioned that before too. Like, we have bad storms, and all of a sudden, people look at it differently 2,000 years ago, right? Where now it's just like, oh no, it was just bad weather.
yeah, definitely. So I think, there's some stories that are really good, but things like that, it bothered me. So I wanted to move away, remove myself from the Catholic Church and all the teachings that I had for my first communion. And I started reading things like Buddhism, Hinduism, Kabbalah. And I basically, at the end of my journey, I realized that they're all trying to teach the same thing.
Right.
So it's like if you have Verizon, I have AT&T, somebody else has Sprint, and we all communicate with each other
Right.
through this invisible force, and then to a main source, which is God. But we have different ways to connect
Right.
to the intelligence or the light, as I like to call it, or the source, and that should be very personal. Whatever ways, if you want to do it in a Catholic way, do it as long as you have God in your heart.
Right.
It doesn't matter what kind, traditional, because that's not spirituality, right? That's although they say religion is spirituality is religion, but I think spirituality is like you have this inner knowing. You tap into the source. Everything you download, you feel the presence of God. You share this energy.
It's a personal connection with the higher power, right? And that was powerful what you said, by the way, where you have people from different spiritualities, Kabbalah, Buddhism, and multiple different ones. But at the end of the day, it's that is their cell phone to the connection of the higher power. But we're all connecting to that higher power, which is the same higher power. So that is, to me, that's powerful, because I have a very strong mindset, and I believe the exact same thing when it comes to that. And I'm a Christian, but I do believe that there's more in the universe as well too, when it comes to the different frequencies and energy medicine. And my mentor, Dr. Robert Willix, who unfortunately passed away 5 years ago at the age of 80, he was a shaman, and he studied with the natives in Peru, and he was big into energy medicine. And it's not something that's common, that you find a former heart surgeon who's also a shaman. And, he's the one that I learned functional medicine from. But the things that I would hear and really start relating with him on was things like what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, everybody should have their own unique way to connect to the source to God, and not trying to seek him outside themselves.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't need to go to church. I mean, it's nice to go to churches, and maybe because part of my tradition, part of my culture, to go to a wedding on a church is beautiful. But to find God, I don't need to go there.
Right.
I go here, I go in. But a lot of people do that. A lot of people just can't see the right way to be connected to God
Do you
all
have a
the time.
specific spirituality that you follow right now?
I follow everything. Everything I read. So sometimes I meditate with Buddhism chants like Om
Okay.
Mani Padme Om. Sometimes I just go to Jesus Christ and I do a Padre Nuestro. And sometimes I even go to an image of the Virgin Mary and I pray to her.
Wow.
Sometimes I pray to Ganesh, which is the protector of he basically the destroyer of obstacles. Sometimes Shiva, because all these are representations of um, prophets or deities or part of the divine that took a human form to just change the consciousness of humankind, and that happens every so often. If you read in history and religion, the story of Jesus Christ happened many, 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 many times with other people many times. Same thing with other stories that we read. So people say, well, no, but it's just only one. If you believe like in quantum physics and stuff like that, at this time, at this present moment, there's so many different realities of Shino Bay happening at this moment. The Shino Bay that didn't come to United States, the
Right.
Shino Bay that died at the age of 9, the Shino Bay that his parents did not leave him behind, the Shino Bay that's 80 years old. I mean, there's everything because in the spiritual realm, the time is experienced vertically. Over here, as human, with our human brain, we're trying to make sense of time as past, present, and future.
Right.
And most of the time in our mind, we're there instead of enjoying the present. So according to my choices, there's different worlds or realms where I exist as something else, and it's called a quantum leap. And I trying to do that. Like if I want to manifest something in my life, I wanna create habits and see it in my mind, visualize it, and quantum leap to a different reality that exists about my life that I wanna see manifested. Like if I'm suffering here right now, and there could be a better version of myself, then I will try to
You-
do that.
You try to find it. Right.
You change your habits and your mindset, and you
So
live
are
into that
you
reality.
are you into bioquantum?
I'm into everything, like human. Um, we so egocentric on the way we think,
Right.
and I think this is a big problem sometimes in medicine because when you are a doctor, you think yourself that you're very very smart,
Right.
right? And so
And there's so much that you really don't know.
yeah,
Right.
so I know that I know certain things, but there's a lot more things that I don't know, and that comes with consciousness. Like
Right.
it's conscious. I'm conscious, expressing myself as Shino Bay right now, wearing all yellow, and you are your own consciousness, and I'm experiencing your consciousness,
Right.
and that's very important to take when I take my message about functional aesthetic medicine, because everything in this universe has consciousness and expresses itself at something. Some are lower levels, like
Explain that to me a little bit more. That everything has.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, a plant, you have a cactus next to you.
Right.
That cactus is aware of itself.
Okay.
So that's the consciousness. And he is self aware as I'm a cactus, I'm here. And he or she, I don't know, but is aware of you.
Right.
In a way that he's probably feeling your heat, maybe your vibration of the voice.
Of the voice,
So
yeah.
he may not see you in the way you and I see,
But it can
but
feel
he
me.
is aware of you.
Right.
And you are aware of it by
Right.
using your senses,
Yes.
right? and you are aware of your body and your spatial arrangement on that chair. So that's your consciousness,
Right.
and you're being self-aware of you as you are, and you're self-aware of me at the experience that I am, Shino Bay, dressed in yellow, doing a podcast with you.
Right.
So since everything has consciousness, I even believe that even a rock has consciousness.
Really?
Even a rock, and I had this feeling since I was a little kid.
But you think about it, a lot of stones, rocks, right? They have different frequencies,
and
right?
they choose you.
Yeah, you have all types of healing stones that have those different frequencies, and so I would believe it. And they recharge in the sun with the full moon. So now, do you follow that type of spirituality as well too?
Yeah, because this is like a different. It's like anybody hear me, it's like sounds very scientific. Yeah, it's
Right.
very spiritual, and everything I'm saying can be. There's books written about it. It can be measured, and it is true. Everything has consciousness. Going back to functional aesthetic medicine, and my goal after the publication that we did last September is like I came to the realization after many years, thinking that I was always a very kind person and a great person, and I like to put others' needs before mine and be kind, all this stuff. Realized as a dermatologist and what I did to my patients in order to get better skin, it was very close to the Spanish Inquisition when it came to my cells,
Okay.
fibroblasts that make collagen elastic fiber. So it wasn't until I wrote this paper where I realized, like, okay, I'm putting spirituality and then explaining consciousness and knowing that everything has consciousness, even a rock has consciousness. These cells also are living organisms.
Right.
But what happened to humans is like we decided that everything that has a brain has consciousness because they can think. And that's completely different. That's the mind. A plant has consciousness, but it doesn't have a brain.
Right.
A cell has consciousness. They communicate with each other. They have tasks to do in your body that are very important. And they know they have to do it, and they have to do it perfectly. Otherwise, you have a disease process. So they need the same thing that you and I need. They need nutrition, they need protection, and they need hydration because the environment can be very harsh. You know, as humans, we live in a very harsh environment with all
Right.
this pollution and all these
A lot of toxins.
toxins.
Yeah.
So we as human, me, experience it myself as Shino Bay, with this consciousness that is aware of me as Shino Bay. I'm also aware that I live in a very polluted, very harsh environment, very stressful environment that it affects me physically and emotionally.
Right.
That's why I don't watch the news. Same thing. I am a universe for my cells. I am that God that those cells pray to.
Right. So you could take care of them, right?
Right.
Instead of continuing to expose yourself to all these toxins, causing the oxidative stress, right? Which then creates all of this other issues, inflammation and everything else, and So that's very interesting. The way that you're mentioning that you are the God in the universe for all your cells.
I am, and I'm as God. I'm supposed to protect them. So how do we get collagen elastic fiber as aesthetic providers? Most of the time, we burnt ourselves with lasers, sometimes with chemicals and like chemical peels.
Chemical peels, right?
That's a harsh chemical. I mean, like, you're really burning the
Yeah.
skin, and sometimes could be toxic, right? I know that there was a young man on Instagram that died of phenol peel. He went to
wow.
a place to get a chemical peel, just walk in, walk out, and he died because phenol is very toxic.
Wow.
So, but we do that, and we can also electrocute our fibroblasts, with devices energy devices that do that, or we stop them with microneedling, and we do all these things, and we do get great results, and the patient loves us for it. And there's a wound healing cascade that happens after you injure, but you are creating an injury.
Right.
Um, so I started thinking that we really terrible to ourselves. And if we are going to do something like that, I should at least provide these cells, which are all, by the way, because you're not doing this to a 15-year-old, unless it's for acne scar, but you're doing this to an older person that you're trying to make the skin look or behave younger. So you're actually being harsh, um, and really hurting these all fibroblasts. Fibroblasts have a lifespan. They live 70 to 80 years.
Okay.
They're to work for you and do all these beneficial things. And this is how we treat them, right? So the idea of functional aesthetic medicine is biology based, understanding that if you can find the cause or the root of the problem or the disease, then we can fix it, and then we may not have to be so aggressive
Right.
in searching for the fan of youth for our patients or ourselves. And it will also unlock the answers to the aging process. I'm very grateful that I'm in this space in aesthetics, because when I did general dermatology, I would tell some patients that I saved their life. They came for vanity. Could you remove this mole here that just showed up like a few months ago? I go, what do you mean like a few months ago? You there? And then I looked at it and it was a melanoma. And I
Oh,
just,
wow.
okay, I saved, your vanity saved your life.
Wow.
And I saved so many people with different disease by that. They came because they had something that looked unsightly to them, and they wanted to get rid of it because it's unsightly. And then they have no idea that was something that could have taken
That
their
could have
life.
taken their
Their
life.
life.
Wow.
And so I feel like this world of aesthetics, where it comes to the space of beauty and staying young, because through this medium, because what we know about the aging process facially and even at the cellular level, uh, we are going to unlock how to help every other disease that happens, because we are just talking about a few cells on our skin, um, and then that translates how can we make the liver cells young too,
Right.
so you don't have a
Right.
liver disease. How can we make cells younger so they can behave better on a 70-year-old that smoke or her life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So a lot of the medical practitioners that get into the aesthetic space, they don't think like that. It's very superficial. A lot of the medical practitioners that go into aesthetics, it's the basic, let me do the neurotoxins, let me do the dermal fillers, and keep it at that. But when you're taking that deep dive to figure out the root cause, and then even like the things that you're saying here, you're diving deep into the biochemistry of the individual. You're looking at the metabolic pathways, the detox pathways, to make sure that the body is performing at its optimal levels, right? Because if it's not, correct me if I'm wrong here, you have the scientific background, but if it's not, then that's where you're going to start seeing the aging cells, the senescent cells, right? And you're going to start seeing it in the face. You're going to start seeing it in the hands. You're going to start seeing it all throughout the body.
yeah, so I feel like we, a lot of other disciplines in medicine look at us as, oh, that's frivolous, it's vanity, age craze. We go, you have no idea what we're gonna unlock, because this pursuit of staying youthful, staying younger, or appearing younger, this is the pathway to unlocking, um, or unlocking the secrets of staying young longer, or staying healthier longer, and be able to manage every disease process
Right.
that is out there. So I'm happy that I'm in this space, and the marrying the spirituality with being a doctor in this space is very important, because sometimes people see this as non-essential, but this is very essential
I think so.
for a human
Absolutely.
experience. Yeah.
Are you on the functional aesthetic medicine side? Are you doing any kind of comprehensive blood work or any kind of specialty blood work?
No, no. So I leave that to my functionalist medical doctor. So
Okay.
I definitely have a relationship with my own functional doctor. You know, they practice pre-care instead of regular medicine.
Right.
Everybody do post-care, right? So I refer those patients to her. That's her business. The way I want people to see the aging process in my space as aesthetic provider is uh, using skin boosters that have nutrition, protection, hydration in the form of biomimetic peptides, antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, hyaluronic acid, and everything that is needed to change the environment of the extracellular matrix so the fibroblasts thrive.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because obviously Liquid Vita, we're big into nutrition, right? We have, again, well over 4,000 doctors that buy our vitamin IV therapy for all types of different issues with the patients. How important is nutrition for skincare, for aesthetics?
It's very important because again, food is medicine,
Right.
and a lot of food out there, whether it's in the form of a vegetable or fruit, it has a lot of great chemicals or phytochemicals that we as humans need and even have receptors in our body to respond to these chemicals. It's like, for example, I don't do marijuana because it never worked on me. I try every form. I'm a doctor. It's okay, but I'm very transparent.
Hold on,
when I
hold
was-
on, hold on.
well,
What do you mean it didn't work on you?
it didn't work on me. My sister,
Really?
she's a pothead, and she always wanted to bond with me doing marijuana. And I tried. Oh, you didn't try the right one. I tried everything. It doesn't work on this brain. And
Really?
and I don't like the way it made me feel. I
Okay.
need to be sharp. I need to be on my A game. I always also I'm a Scorpio, so I need to be in control of every situation.
Right.
If there's gonna be something that's gonna go bad, I need to be
Ready
very
to go.
aware. So
Yeah.
ready to go and make sure that I save whoever I
Yeah.
need to save. So that's my personality. But if 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 God or the universe or the source didn't want humans to smoke marijuana, why do we have receptors for it? And why make some people feel good or not? So again, everything in moderation. That's why I don't judge anyone.
Right.
Even if you maybe I don't have those receptors, I'm a mutation, and that's why it doesn't work on me.
Right.
Somebody need to study me, because I sure would love to feel what everybody else feeling,
Right, right.
because they look like they're having a lot of fun, or at least just relax. And me, I want to jump out of a building.
Oh boy, no, that's not good.
But again, we have receptors, and we need these things. We
Right.
need food. So your cells do that. They need that too, and they need micronutrients, and we don't do that. Even dermatologists, we don't go beyond what we learn in books and in journals, and they get very resistant. Sometimes doctors can be like very the word I want to use. They don't have an open mind.
Yeah.
If it's not written in a journal, they don't want to
They
hear it.
ignore it.
They
Right.
ignore it, and the funny thing that I write tons of articles in journals. I also peer review articles from colleagues on
Wow.
different subjects. So I know that an article 10 years from now can be contested, and what you wrote is not valid anymore.
Right.
I know also that who has the most money can publish something as well.
That's true.
You know,
Absolutely.
so I'm very skeptical of everything. I mean, I read articles and there's some great work and stuff, but that doesn't mean that. And I'm not a devil's advocate, and I'm not gonna be skeptical when I read it. I will read it with an open
With
mind
an open mind.
and an open heart. And if it resonates with me, I'll give it a try. And sometimes it does, and I give it a try, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
and then I move away and find.
But Dr. Shino Bay, it's one of the things that I always say is, as a physician, especially the new physicians that are coming up, right, that are graduating, they can't just take what everybody else has put together and what they've learned, what they've been taught. I feel like it's their responsibility, it's their duty to take those things and elevate from there,
Mhm.
put further research, go out there and see if there's a better way, right? And that's how new things develop, new innovative technologies, new innovative, supplements, all of that stuff. Like if we sit here, I feel like you're not fulfilling your full purpose if you just sit here and take everything that you've just been given.
Yeah, no, and that's why I struggle. I'm glad I have a voice in the industry, and I always want to use it for good, and that's part of my spirituality in the space. I'm not never sure to take. I I don't go to a podium to take or look at me. I know a lot or stroke my ego. I'm just there to share.
Yeah. I mean, you are a rock star when I go to these conferences. The line of people that want to take a picture with you, it's up there.
Uh, Thank you, but my voice in the industry, it is important
Right.
because I feel like I'm non-inflammatory when I speak, so I don't feel like I piss a lot of people off.
Right.
I say the things that I say in a way that they may not agree with me, and that's okay, and that's beautiful because that means that there's more homework to do, and somebody's gonna try to disprove me, whether I'm right or wrong. Somebody wants to disprove me. That means that we are going to even get closer to the
Yeah.
right answer because somebody's gonna take my work further, right, or the work of my colleagues further, and that's very important. For example, like there's a lot of people that go on social media, especially plastic surgeons. The majority are good friends of mine, so there's no ill intention, and we talk behind the scenes, but they talk bad about Sculptra. They don't want Sculptra. The other companies talk bad about Sculptra.
And why
um,
is that? What do they have to say?
well, I think you fear what you don't know, and so they don't know. Those people that
Ignorance.
talk about Sculptra, they either had a bad experience with it, it doesn't work on their hands, and or or they don't know what the potential of this product is. Now I sympathize with my plastic surgeon friends because when they do come out as a public announcement that don't do Sculptra because it's gonna create nodules. Yeah, well, if you dilute it the wrong way and you inject it too superficial, you are going to get nodules. If you inject it into a muscle that contracts, you are going to get nodules. If it's too concentrated, you're gonna get nodules. So it depends how you're gonna use it. But if they find it in the fascia, well, the person that injected doesn't know anatomy because none of my colleagues that are plastic surgeons should be finding Sculptra in the fascia. Also, understanding that most referrals to plastic surgeons come from people like me. Um, some of them come because people find them in social media now. But I sent a lot of people to plastic surgeons, colleagues of mine, depending where they are in the world or in the
Right.
United States or even Florida. So I am a great source of referrals for plastic surgeons. And I don't want my patients that are referred to a plastic surgeon as a Sculptra user to have an adverse reaction,
Right.
that they have paralysis because they cut a nerve, because they couldn't get the Sculptra out of the plane where they found. So I work together with plastic surgeons and I prepare my patients for the surgical day. I'm the
Okay.
first one to tell them, okay, I'm gonna keep you looking good until this decade. We revisit, but at this, before your 60th birthday, you need to cut. Because if you don't cut, you're gonna look weird. Because either once the fascia gets loose, you need to tighten
Right.
or you inflate. So either you look inflated like a potato head or a pillow face, or you go and get cut.
Right.
Or we continue doing what we do, but you're gonna be having some laxity around the jawline on the neck. I mean, for me, Sculptra is an amazing product. And before people use in 2009, when I would say, this is what I see clinically. Patients that do Sculptra on the bone, they age slower. Even though I'm putting on the bone, the skin gets better. Why is that? Well, I think there's cross communication between the fibroblasts on the bone and the fibroblasts on the dermis. But can you prove that? No. I don't have the money, the resources. I'm not a scientist that has a lab and the time to do this, but the companies do.
Right.
But nobody ever pay attention to me because companies make more money when they say HA fillers, hyaluronic acid. And to this day, there's resistance to shift to bioregenerative aesthetic medicine, where you actually get your patients to get younger instead of making your patients appear younger. Even plastic surgery doesn't make your patient younger.
Right.
It makes them appear younger. But talking in a physiological way, it doesn't make you 100% younger.
Right. Right.
But when you do bioregenerative aesthetic medicine and functional aesthetic medicine, and I'm talking like, well, if I put it on the bone, the skin gets better, there's cross communication. Well, let's study that. How do they communicate? We know that they have chemical signals. Now we know about exosomes, right? Exosomes is the language of the cells. They communicate with each other. Before
Are you actively using exosomes?
I use exosome. I just don't inject it.
Topical.
I use
With
topical
microneedling?
microneedling and stuff like
yeah.
that. Until there's more studies, right?
Right.
I know that there's people doing IV exosome treatments. And I'm sure that they're probably getting it from a company that is not in the United States and telling you to do it because the companies that are legally in the United States will advise against that until they do more research.
More research, right.
Because we're talking about things that can have prions and DNA material that can really intercalate in your DNA and create some teratogenicity and some sort of cancer. So topically, but again, I'm happy that now we know that these little vesicles that we observe being spilled out of the cells, that in the past we thought it was waste material. I go, that's maybe like a cell taking a dump, basically.
Right.
And no, there's not a cell taking a dump. Those little vesicles is the language. It comes in a little envelope. It's that little envelope, round envelope, have an important message for the other cells to do something. Right? But imagine if we just think that hyaluronic acid fillers, HA, is the holy grail for anti-aging. We that's not progress. We're not advancing. And the resistance is that, yes, it's easier to do hyaluronic acid. You need to know anatomy so you don't hurt somebody, blindness, necrosis, and you need to have an artistic eye, but that's it. That's where you end. And I do that too, but in younger patients. But making them younger, they will appear younger. But if you chronically just use hyaluronic acid and you don't use bioregenerative techniques or energy devices, or you don't send them to get plastic surgery, I don't care if you're the best injector in the world, that patient will have problems with a pillow face syndrome. You will affect the lymphatics. You are not making them younger. They appear younger for a finite amount of time before they start having problems.
This is really good information, especially for the practitioners that are getting into medical aesthetics. What do you recommend for these practitioners to make sure they're staying up to speed on all of this information that you're...
Well, they need to first have an open mind.
Right.
And be open and get curious about aging at a cellular level, and knowing that you are in a space where you can affect that. So I know that people that don't do Sculptra, they fear it because they feel that the nodules that they're gonna get. Well, you getting nodules is your fault. Unless it's a granuloma, but you can get granuloma with anything, even with a hyaluronic acid HA. The other thing is get trained. Ask the companies to train you right. So you take that fear out of the equation. Understand, read articles about it. You know, I
Right.
have published a lot of articles on calcium hydroxide appetite, about to publish one on Sculptra. I published in the past in Sculptra my technique on the bone on 2014. And at that time, I was just seeing Sculptra as a good way to preserve the bone. But again, to this day, I cannot tell you the mechanism of action.
Right.
I have some ideas. You know, some of my colleagues think that there's perforating fibroblasts, that when you put PLLA, even CAHA, calcium hydroxyapatite on top of the bone, these fibroblasts that are on top, they perforate into the bone, and
Right.
maybe there's a little bit of bone formation, not enough to look at, oh my God, I made all this bone, but enough as it appears that it's not disintegrated as a faster rate. Because patients that do Sculptra on the periosteum, on top of the bone, they look 20 years younger than chronological age. And I said it then in 2009, I say it now, and I have all the photos to prove.
Wow.
So now when I speak, nobody's calling me a quack.
Right.
Nobody, you know, I had to defend myself, my way through the position that I am.
Right.
First of all, I'm a DO, and there was always a big MDs looking at a DO as a lower class citizen. I had enough of that growing up as a child. You know, being the grandson of a prostitute, being poor. I was always treated as a second-class citizen. And I remember being at the Academy of Dermatology, and there were these high school kids passing these flyers. And when I got, and I was with the mom of my kids, which also a dermatologist and also a DO dermatologist, and I grabbed the flyer at the Academy of Dermatology, and it says some very nasty things about somebody, about the os in dermatology. And I remember I grabbed that paper with tears in my eyes because it really hit home. And I said, by my own merit, I'm going to change this for every single DO out there. So we get the respect that we deserve because we study on the same books, we went to the same
Yeah.
clinics, we went to the same hospitals. But just because my letters were D or no MD, I was treated as less of.
Almost like a second class citizen.
And I
That's
even,
crazy.
at one point, even felt like that. Like, and I go, no, I cannot feel like this. I cannot feel like this my whole life. And so going back to the story, Sculptra, it was like me publishing in 2009 as a DO, you know, a lot of snares, comments, a lot of, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And, you know, I always know, like, okay, I'm not going to react. I'm going to just respond the Shino way, namaste, you know.
I like that.
You know, namaste. No, but I don't react. I mean, I'm human. Sometimes I do, but I
Yeah, but
know
you
that.
do it in a professional way, you know, and sometimes they feel it more when you do it that
It's
way.
better to respond to
Right.
react. I think there's no progress if you react, because
Right.
if you react, they'll react, and then react in a bigger form with more negativity, and then I will have to top that, and then I generate more negativity,
Right.
and nobody wins. No.
Yeah, nobody.
But
wins.
I think with Sculptra is that I keep pressuring the company. Galderma did great things for Sculptra, because Sculptra was like Cinderella. Nobody, oh, you want to take all this HA whenever a company get bought out, you need to take Sculptra too. Even Mercs that have radius, they didn't know what they had. They put all the effort and the money and the marketing on the Velotero portfolio of HA. We don't need another HA in the world anymore.
Right.
And if they're gonna they better be producing collagen, elastic fiber, which I know that there are some now
Yeah.
that they're doing that in the aesthetics. So if you're gonna bring another HA, it better be bioregenerative HA, and it don't like just bioregenerative because it stretches the skin, and that stretch leaves a little bit of collagen as a residue. No, a lot of collagen, a lot of elastic fibers, just like Sculptra, just like hyperalveolar radius. But again, this is progress that we are now talking about exosomes and stem cells and revitalizing polymicronutrients,
Right.
all this stuff that are being outside the United States for a long time. But in the United States, the resistance is that it's easier to inject HA, that is reversible, that the results are immediate. That is what makes so attractive for a MESPA to continue to only do HA.
Right.
That's not progress. That's cutting corners.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's not really focused on the root cause, right, of what the issue is. So especially when you start looking at a lot of the things that are happening out there, you said environment, toxins, and things that people get exposed to, and even what we eat, right? What we're eating, a lot of the foods that we have are nutritional deficient. You know, it's growing in soil and dirt that has no nutrition. So your body's not getting what it needs for the cells to do what it needs specifically. So when it comes to the nutrients therapies, are you giving people oral supplementation, topicals? What is it that?
both. So for what I do, because when it comes to the functional medicine aspect, I have a colleague of mine. She's a functional medicine doctor, and she will check nutritional deficiencies through saliva, through the blood, and she will recommend that. For what we do in our practice, when it comes to Sculptra, anybody that's 60 plus, there's a product called Juven. I have no stocks on the product or anything. Just is were used in hospitals as an inpatient for patients that have wounds that will not heal.
I love Juven, by the way.
Yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The HMB in it.
The HMB is fantastic.
L-arginine and glutamine. I actually take it now for weight training.
Me too. That's what I
Yeah.
do because I actually scar my kidneys with a creatine when I was in.
So I want to talk about Juven really quick because
Okay.
they got bought out by what's the company? Insure.
Yeah,
Insure bought them.
ABUP, yeah.
Now before it was actual prescription product, and it was being given to HIV patients for muscle wasting. And I remember back in the day when I used to do bodybuilding years back.
You still look like you do.
Thank you. I got my trophies over there, by the way. I actually did something with the bodybuilding. You know, that was something that was recommended to me by a physician. He was also DO, Dr. Jason Zanis, the years back. And he said, Dr. Zanis said, this is a good product. You know, it has different things here that are going to help you build more lean mass. And I started taking this product. But back then, they stopped producing it. It was prescription only, and they stopped producing it. And I started making it myself, ordering all the different. And then eventually, Insure came out with it, and I used it, you know, twice a day. How the direction said, within 2 weeks, you see significant change.
Definitely on your skin and everything, and my patients too. So for me, like I said, I always been thin, and I wanted to have muscle, and so I would take creatine. And that kind of like makes you retain water in your muscle, so it makes me look bigger.
Right.
And if I stop taking it, I will go back to my size. And I didn't want to do testosterone steroids because I didn't want to damage my liver. But I took creatine from age 23 to age 42. I'm not a water drinker. I had to force myself to drink water. So if you take creatine, you better drink a lot of water, and it's not a product you should be for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it's so innocent, right? You get it on GNC. So I put myself on stage 2 renal failure with that. So I cannot take a lot of protein like body, you know, what I used to do when I was younger. So I take Juven to keep my muscle mass, and it works quite well.
It does.
It works quite well. So for patients, aesthetic patients, this is how my guidance, my spiritual guidance works. So I was noticing that patients that were older, they weren't responding as well. And a lot of colleagues would say, well, we don't give Sculptra to, and to this day, people say that patients that are 70 or 80. My oldest patient is 94. She looks 60. She does Sculptra on the bone.
Awesome.
But she needs to take Juven. So how do I find out about Juven? So I was perplexed, you know, like, why can they not respond? So I'm walking into Publix, the supermarket, and I walked in and I see Juven, tissue builder. And then that's it. The light bulb went on. And they said, it's about nutrition. their gut cells are old too, so they could be eating as much. So they need supplementation.
Yeah.
They need supplementation like anything else. We need sometimes vitamin D3 supplementation if we don't go out on the sun all the time because we don't want to get wrinkles. So as you get older, you need supplementation. They need supplementation. So I started buying it for my patients for free. I would buy, take this. And those patients, 70, 80, even 90,
You saw the results.
they respond like anybody else.
Wow.
So I started talking about on my lectures about if you have, and then everybody caught on to the point that the Juve got back order because we all giving it to our patients.
It's been very tough to get it, and it's not cheap. You know, it's not.
No,
It's not
it used
that
to
cheap.
be, and the price
Yeah,
went
it
up.
went up.
Yeah,
It went up. Now there's
So-
actual white papers. You know, there's actual clinical research for Juven. It's a
Yeah.
product that's proven to work.
So that's by mouth in my practice. We actually dispense it too because older patients like, why do you and have an accent, and we can find it. I go, you can even get it on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
I sell it not because I'm making money out of it, the practice, but just out of convenience for my
Right.
older patients that can remember what I said or where to get it. And the other thing is finally we have Toscani Medical in the United States. And this is a company that is 53 years old from Barcelona. It's pharmaceutical, and they have pharmaceutical grade products for mesotherapy.
Okay.
Now, my paper that I wrote was with NCTF from Filmed. And this is showing NCTF and these products are to be injected outside the United States. In the United States, they never come to be injected. But then again, they're created to be injected like nutrients. But to do it in an injected form in the United States, that you're doing something off-label.
Right.
So when I talk for the company and do trainings, I had to show on-label. But the paper that we wrote last September is mixing Radius with NCTF from Filmed. Toscani have NCPR, which is the same product, the same ingredients, just different brands, like Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola.
Right.
And I was very grateful that Toscani came because the way we came out with this idea of localized nutrition, because with Juven is you have all the ingredients, but it still have to pass through your gut.
Dear God.
So
How important is gut health when it comes to?
extremely important. I mean, even for antidepressant, like your gut health, if your gut health is not is optimum, you're not secreting serotonin. Most people think like most of the serotonin is
Right.
created on the brain, but
And even your microbiome.
exactly.
right?
So and the skin, the emotions, your state of mind shows on your skin.
Right.
And that's why we see people like never had psoriasis and they have a death on their family and they're full of psoriasis plaques. They had the gene, but something turned it on. Your emotions. So your gut, your skin, and your emotions are tied in, right? That's why we all have beautiful skin because we feel better about ourselves.
Right.
And you have beautiful skin, people find you attractive because you are advertising your health.
Yes.
So everything is interconnected. So your gut access with your brain access is very interconnected. And then your emotions are connected to your skin. So everything is intertwined. So having a good biome in your gut is going to show as having better skin, very function and physiology of the skin, and overall skin health will be very apparent.
Right.
So it is important to do, those prebiotics, probiotics, especially after doing it. Most people, they take antibiotics from doctors
Oof, that's
and they
the
don't
worst
do their
for that,
homework.
yeah.
They don't even, they're happy that they got the antibiotic, but they just, again, we're just terrible.
You got to follow it with the probiotic, the prebiotic, all of those, the digestive enzymes, all of that stuff is important. Magnesium.
We haven't been taught to care for ourselves. That's the problem. We care about other things, but we as humans, we just don't care much about substance at all level. Even we don't care about Mother Earth. We're so egocentric. That's the problem.
I feel like it's so reactive. Like people are not taking the true proactive approach to their health and wellness the way they should. They wait until it's a problem, right?
Yeah, and the problem that's the problem with medicine, right?
Right.
Who gives money to medical school? Pharmaceutical companies, and we learn pharmacy. How to use pharmaceuticals, and they teach us everything that we need to know, but they don't teach us how to help our patients avoid taking those pills.
Right.
Because my goal is I don't want to take anything.
Yeah.
I don't
I
want
agree.
to take an aspirin if I can't help it, because
Yeah.
everybody calls side effects. No, there's no side effects. There's never side effects to medication. It's a direct effect from the medication, because if you're not taking that medication, then you don't have that effect.
Right.
But we call it side effect to make less of a problem there.
Doc, let me ask you this. Right now, I've been seeing on the news record heat, that's outside. I came from Las Vegas, and it was the hot record, right? It's like 118 degrees.
Oof.
You go outside, and it stings from
You
how hot
melt.
it is. Now, hydration. How important is hydration for
It's very
skin?
important. We are actually, our body's mainly water. So again, I'm at fault. I had to force myself. I cannot blame my grandmother for me not liking water, because I grew up with Kool-Aid. So any liquid that I had with food had a color.
What was your favorite Kool-Aid?
I like the red color.
The red
I
one.
don't know what flavor
The
it was.
fruit punch or the cherry. One
Yeah,
of
the
two.
cherry something.
Yeah.
I grew up with Kool-Aid, and I thought the green one, the neon green one, kind of like what I'm wearing, was so cool. Now I'm thinking, that probably was radioactive. Yeah. But it was so cool because that cool. So they were my two favorite.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think we need to teach everybody out there to be conscientious that you are a universe, and you are a god and a goddess, if you want to see it that way, or the universe, and every single cell in your body depend on you
Right.
to thrive, and they will do great things for you, like keeping your longevity pain free, and even more attractive, because
Yeah.
you look youthful and more beautiful. But it is time for people to understand again, like I started this conversation with you, that everything has consciousness, and your cells have consciousness, and they realize like we do all this for this Shino guy, and he just eating Twinkies and all this sugar, and he doesn't go to the gym, and he's smoking, and he's drinking tequila every day, and just our cells are self-aware of themselves,
Right.
and they're aware of me. Just like that cactus is aware of you, and you're aware of it. Your cells have consciousness, and they're self-aware, and they're aware of you and everything that you do it to them. And they're kind. They're really kind to us, because despite all the crap that we do, and even in aesthetics, how we trying to achieve our skin to look better by burning it with chemicals or lasers or foreign substances like Sculptra and Radius. We just put thin on the skin, and they still are kind.
They're still
They
kind.
still will give you the collagen that you want, and they still will give you the elastic fiber. So that is my new goal this year, is to create consciousness and awareness about that there's a different way to achieve youth, a better way to achieve youth,
And that's through
functional
functional
aesthetic
aesthetic medicine. So, when we talk about functional aesthetic medicine, and we're talking about a lot of the things you mentioned, which is lifestyle, right? The Twinkies and not working out and the gyms and all of that stuff, is I want to talk about alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
What effects do alcohol truly have to your skin?
Well, you get dehydrated. So it goes about, again, it is an inflammation. And I follow that. I like alcohol. I like my tequila. Out of all the alcohol, the best one to take is tequila
Because it comes from the agave.
because come from the agave and the least inflammatory, and you have the best time because it's an upper. Everything else is a downer. So I
Okay.
like to be up dancing. I don't want to take anything that's a downer. So, but alcohol is detrimental. It
Right.
is. I mean, if you can live without it, I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, I do at least once or twice a year a whole month of dry month.
Okay.
I do it. I
Well,
give
and what do you
myself
do that to kind of just detox and
detox
reset?
and I'm honoring my body and I'm letting myself know that yes, I actually I don't have an addiction to alcohol, but I have a social addiction to alcohol because I'm shy, and for me to not to be shy in a social scenario.
Right.
As a doctor, or what I'm doing right now, I'm confident and stuff. But if you take me to a party with you and I don't know anyone and you know everyone, or you don't know anyone, I will not start a conversation unless
Right.
somebody come to me because I'm extremely shy inside. I'm afraid to do that.
It's more for you to kind of loosen up and be able to
Yeah.
socialize.
So
and
when I
everything.
take my tequila, it gives me powers. All of a sudden, I'm not shy anymore, and I'm on the dance floor, and I'm talking to people. And so
Right.
I guess maybe it's not too late for me. Maybe when I get older, but I try to balance. Is everything in moderation, right?
Yes.
So if I drink, if I do things that are not good for my body, I'm gonna do a lot of other things that are good. So I eat organic, I do intermittent fasting, I follow don't eat a lot of meat and stuff like that. Nothing that's gonna create more sugars, carbs. So that's gonna add to the inflammation that
Right.
alcohol give and those moments. And I try to just drink socially, right? Like I promised myself because my mother was an alcoholic for 32 years of her life. I don't. My family have an addictive personality. I don't want to end up like them, so I really
Making it a
set
priority.
limitations
Yeah.
on everything, even on Instagram. I give myself 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. Right now, I'm taking a whole month not being social media to have a
Digital detox.
dopamine detox, right?
Yeah.
So I just
That's good.
so I
That's
have to
really good.
set boundaries for myself so I can thrive. But I do think about myself, and because I'm kind to myself because I think about them. Everything that I do, I go, well, will this damage my cells? I know that they're aware of me thinking about them,
Of
and they're
course.
going to be even more kind to me in my goals, which is have good longevity, look younger than my chronological age for a long time, and teach others to achieve those same goals through a way that doesn't require injuring the skin all
Right.
the time, or putting foreign substances on it all the time, and using this platform to have scientists and companies to spend money on this, to spend money on finding we already know the root cause of aging, right? You said it earlier, senescence and inflammation will lead to more cells that
Right.
turn into zombie cells, which are senescent cells. So we know all these things. We know all the pathways. We know all this. But what fascinates me is we know all these things, yet we're not advancing because we don't want to advance.
Right.
Because we are comfortable with hyaluronic acid because it's a commodity. It's easy to do. We cut in corners. We made the money that we need to. But no, I don't want to stay in this space. I want to be in the future where you are 100 years old and you have no osteoarthritis, that you are 100 years old and you don't have any macular degeneration, where you are 100 years old still running marathons. We can't do that.
I think we can. I mean,
We
when you
can
look
do
at the
that.
world of biohacking and seeing what people are doing out there, it's really coming far along.
We can
It
do that,
really
and
is.
we will be there. But
And one of the things like right now, our chief medical officer, Dr. Christopher Davis, who by trade, he's a interventional cardiologist, but got sick and tired of the traditional, allopathic system, and got more into functional medicine, right? And one of the things that he's an expert at is toxins and how it has a direct effect on your mitochondrial health, and how the mitochondria is just it's your powerhouse cells for everything, you know. And disease formation is coming from those mitochondrial cells, the mitochondrial potential going down. So we have a test. We don't do it here in the US. We actually do a blood test. We send it out to Germany. And that test looks at over 900 different toxins. But then it also will tell you the toxins that you have, and it'll show the DNA adduct and what gene expression it's turning either on or off, right? So now you can go even deeper, but even better, it's an actual blood test that shows mitochondrial potential. And when you start actually putting them through like the detox, and enhancing their detox pathways and glutathione and doing all these different things and doing phosphatidylcholine, the lipid membrane exchange therapies and stuff, you just start seeing all the numbers change. And we don't say this publicly, but we're seeing disease go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, no, and it is there. We just have to all collaborate,
Right.
collaborate and put little pieces of the puzzle so then we can see the whole picture. But again, when it comes to aesthetics, it's like people just wanna continue to honor hyaluronic acid, which is my bread and butter. I do a lot of it, but I wanna also do the bioregenerative and the functional aesthetic medicine to make sure that we have progress in this space. And that's a beautiful thing to see in the future that we did right by nature to ourselves, and I have people to start thinking about the aging process, not just want to appear younger, but actually get younger,
Yeah.
and healthier, and that's my actual goal for this.
And I think when you look at the world of functional medicine, like, a lot of the accredited organizations that are out there, the A4M, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the AMMG, they talk about a lot of, whole body, but not necessarily aesthetics. Aesthetics is, AMSPA, it's going there, but then the AMSPA is not really going into the functional, medicine side of it. Let me ask you this. Who would you say is the founder of functional aesthetic medicine?
I have no idea, man.
I think you are.
No,
You are.
no.
You know why you are? I got a surprise for you. When we first started talking about, I'm big into functional medicine. I've been in it since I was 19 years old. I'm 37. Dr. Willix, he's in my book, which I'm going to give you a copy of my book before you leave. The importance of functional medicine is critical for the aging process. It's critical for the change in the course of medicine. And what you're saying, I resonate with all of that very closely. So I've been in the industry for many, many years, and I haven't heard anybody talk about functional aesthetic medicine. So I'm going to appoint you as the founder of functional aesthetic medicine.
You're very kind, huh?
And what I've
Thank you.
done is I've purchased functionalaestheticmedicine.com,
Oh wow.
and I'm going to do this. This is yours. I purchased it for you, for
Thank
you and
Wow.
for you and I to take this to the world. We are
Wonderful.
going to
Thank
educate
you.
the world. And if you go on there right now, you'll actually see a picture of you and I on there.
Oh wow. Thank
So
you.
we're going to make it happen. And I have a lot of functional medicine doctors that we're going to partner up. Obviously, I'm the chairman of the association in the IV hydration space, where I have all the top companies there, 10X Health, Revive, Drip Bar. And we have a scientific advisory board, which is doing R&D and everything else. So I'd like to add the aesthetics to it and make you part of it.
That's great. We need more voices out there. Just gonna be just a few of us, and just reach out to our colleagues and make sure that it makes sense to them. There's science behind, so it's no quackery.
Yeah.
The time is now, and,
It's now.
and we'll make it happen.
And I
So,
want everyone to hear, I didn't just purchase this because he said it. I purchased it for him. So it's public. It's not mine. It's for him, and I'm doing it with him, and I'm partnering up with him, and we're getting functional aesthetic medicine out to the world.
amen to that.
Yeah. Doc, what else? Let's finish up here and talk
Okay.
about, where do you see, besides the functional aesthetic medicine side, where do you see the industry going in the aesthetics world? Because it's blowing up. I mean, there's just med spas opening up everywhere. Some make it, some don't.
Well, I think, eh, well, like you said, we just moving into that space. I'm hoping that by 2030, we already fully, this, what we've been discussing is something of the past, and we actually doing what, well, I can tell you a little bit. This era, epigenomic reprogramming of aging. So the way this work is born by this exosome technology, and this is something that I think is on phase 1 now. And the exosome is called Uterna,
Mm.
and it's a synthetic exosome, and then borrowed from the technology of the COVID vaccine um, using mRNA. So this company, Bioturn, they are able to get the mRNA, put it on the exosome, and make any old cell in the human body get young again. So
Wow.
not go to a pluripotent stem cell, but only to get young again. Old cell gets to this point and is young again.
Wow.
And what that means is that we are going to be able to make sure that we conquer and find a solution for osteoarthritis, macro degeneration, and one of the areas of interest of this company is the skin. I lectured like maybe 3 years ago about this, and they're doing studies just to make sure how we're gonna deliver it, and if there's going to be any adverse reaction. We think that there's not going to be problems like with stem cells. Well, we worry about stem cells and exosomes, which will be a potential formation of a cancer. Because when you have a pluripotent cell, which is like a stem cell, they can turn into anything
Right.
or turn on a gene. Same thing with exosomes. We cannot worry about things like that. If there are DNA material in the formulation, prions, we worry about things like that. We worry about creating teratogenicity, creating cancer. With this technology, a cell can only turn young and can only become that type of cell. So a skin cell can only be a skin cell. It's just going to be a skin cell that was old and now is young, but it's going to be a young skin cell.
Right.
And the old cells malfunction or they turn into cancerous cells themselves. So we believe that there is not going to be a potential adverse event where there's any teratogenicity with this technology.
Mm.
So we are very grateful for this. Um, and I think that's where we're going to be. We are just going to be getting younger at a cellular level everywhere. So that is where I see the future. It is part of functional aesthetic medicine,
That's amazing.
but that is already on its way. And it's
love it.
very promising and it's very exciting.
I'll be watching it closely.
Yeah, so it's very exciting to know all these things,
Yeah.
And sit on advisory boards where I get to hear all these great technologies that's gonna be available to us, and
That's awesome.
it gets better and better and better. So everybody else who's listening, you need to start with biocollagen stimulators. That's the beginning for those of you that are getting excited about what we talked about, because you need to crawl before you run.
Right.
So I'm grateful to hyaluronic acid. I still use a lot of it, but I moved into biocollagen stimulators and found a way to help my patients achieve um, better results on the bone loss, bone remodeling by putting Sculptra on the bone. Now we have Renuva. My patients don't need to get a very, very expensive fat grafting. I can inject this product and bring their fat back.
Well, let's talk about that because right now there's a lot of talk about Ozempic face,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yes.
Where people are utilizing these GLP-1 drugs
Mhm.
and they're losing fat, but they're also losing muscle.
Muscle,
right?
yeah.
And then they're losing fat from all over their body,
So it's
including
no
the face.
Ozempic face, it's Ozempic body now. It's everywhere.
Oh, the other day it was Ozempic butt also.
Oh,
You know,
yes. You don't want to see an Ozempic butt, I promise you.
it's like a pancake.
Oh, my God. Because they lose the muscle. So then the skin is very
Oh gosh.
flabby. So it's a nightmare.
So
But
what are your recommendations for that?
for people that do me, I think it has its place. Just make sure that you don't think this is the holy grail for lose, even though it does seems like it, because you can lose weight a lot. I actually have my baby brother on it because he's skinny like me, but he looked 9 months pregnant, and that's not healthy because that's that big belly full of fat. He lost 45 pounds, but I make him work out because I don't want him to lose muscle.
Right.
And I tell her this is gonna be your new lifestyle. So I get up in the morning, 7, knock on the door. We go to the gym together, and now this is becoming his lifestyle. He's doing paleo, which is the diet that I follow. I do a paleo diet.
Nice.
He's doing intermittent fasting because once I told him you got 30 more pounds to go, and once you lose those, you're gonna achieve it through diet and exercise and your new lifestyle because you're not gonna be on it for a long time.
Right. Right.
So everybody else that's doing it, they should do Ozempic with this idea in mind.
Right.
If you think that is like a magic shot that is gonna keep you skinny forever, you're gonna have repercussions that are gonna be negative. The minute that you go off it, if you're a person that don't like to go to the gym and work out at least minimum of 3 times a week, I recommend 5. You're gonna hate what's gonna happen to you.
Yeah, you're gonna rebound.
You're gonna rebound, and you're gonna hate what's gonna happen to you. So it's for short term.
Yeah,
It's
you can't use it as a crutch. It has to be
No.
something to kick off your weight
It
loss
will
journey.
help you, and it is very helpful. I see it with my own eyes, but you better have Plan B.
Right.
Again, because all these things, all these chemicals that we put, again, back to being kind to your cells, you will stress other cells out. Nothing comes without a price,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
You're polluting. Pollution is
Yeah.
pollution.
You got to put in the work. Got to
Put in
put
the
in the
work.
work.
Yeah.
Awesome, Doc. If people want to find you, where do they find you?
Well, I mean, like social media.
Yeah.
Oh, Shino Bay, because my practice has Shino Bay Derm, and I don't manage that, and I manage my own social media, and I try to answer everybody that
That's
send
awesome.
me a message.
And you have your channel also where you put a lot of the spiritual and energy stuff. I follow that as well.
Yeah, so
That's awesome.
So just I try to do my best. Or successful aging depends on the alignment of mind, body, and spirit, and that's what I do.
That's the truth.
I have spiritual rituals in the morning where I pray, I meditate. I also on the floor I do a few sit-ups, a few push-ups. I'm honoring my body, and then through meditation I have reflections about things, and then I write them, and then those are the spiritual or things that I share in my personal social media channel, because I feel like I gotta teach people successful aging, and if you look at my wall on my Instagram, you can see it represents me quite
Right.
100%. You see things that I do for work. You see me dancing because I love to dance. You see me celebrating life
Yeah.
at every moment. I teach people to live in the present like it's your last day.
I love that.
And that keeps you young, you know?
And that's actually one of our core values is celebrate life.
And to understand that our telomeres are social. So if you ever see me like a clown going on stage dancing, I have a purpose. Is at that moment I'm reducing your cortisol level because we are all in celebration. You have to be in my presence in that lecture about the psychosocial aspect of aging to understand why I come out dancing and sharing some of that energy, because our telomeres are social. I can be a jerk and make you mad, and that's gonna lead to high levels of cortisol and inflammation, so your telomeres are getting short. Or I can make you get up and dance. At that moment, you're not thinking about your problems at work, with your spouse, with your children. You got up and you're dancing. I promise you, if we check your blood, your cortisol levels are low,
Right.
and your telomeres are staying longer. So I'm making you make collagen
You
at that
see,
moment.
it's not just a big show that he puts on. There is science behind what he's doing when he goes up there. And that's why Dr. Shino Bay is a healer.
Thank you.
Doc, I appreciate you coming on the
My
podcast. This was
pleasure.
great. This is information that people are looking for. They're going to vibe on it. I know this podcast is going to do very, very well. So if you're looking for Dr. Shino Bay, want more info, find them on social media. And he's always posting stuff. He's very consistent with it. And he speaks at some of the biggest conferences out there. Guys, thank you for tuning in on the Healthy Point of View podcast. This was a great episode. Make sure you check the next one. Make sure to follow, tap, like, share, do all the fun stuff. See you for the next one.